Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
What's up, guys? This is Osborne. You're listening to the Alien Strand podcast with Donald Ledesma. My new project, Genesis, is dropping May 8th on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. You can keep up with me at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at OsborneLit. That's with 3 T's. I'll see you guys there.
When do you first recall being abducted? My first abduction occurred in 1957 when I was 5 years old.
Says it's only through hypnosis that he's been able to remember the rest of this first abduction. What you are seeing is actual footage of Jesse undergoing hypnotic regression.
You will not be craft, taken into one room. I was placed on a very cold, flat table. My brother was separated and he was taken into another room.
Coastal Bend in Corpus Christi, Texas, and you're listening to the Alien Strand podcast with Donald Ledesma. Buying or selling, visit me at kellygreenrealtor.com or visit me on my Facebook page, Kelly Green Realtor. See you there.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Alien Strand podcast. And welcome to show episode number 40. So today we're going to talk about the Jesse Long story. And this popped up on one of my feeds. And I had been going actually past it a couple of times, but I didn't really get to dig into it as much as I really wanted to. I didn't know, to tell you the truth, how interesting this story was. So when I started digging into it, I noticed that Mr. Whitley Strieber, which is the abductee from the book, and he wrote the book Communion, he interviewed this man because it puzzled him as well. the whole abduction thing. It was a little bit more, I guess, disturbing to him to interview him, which is Mr. Jesse Long. I'm sorry. So when I picked up the story after that, I just decided to bring it out to you guys, see what you guys think about it. But before we get going, welcome to Alien Strand Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and alienstrand.com. Check us out there. And don't forget to download the Alien Strand Podcast app on your Google Play. It's a free app. You can just download it from your phone. You can always listen to any of the podcasts from there. It's actually a player, and then you can comment on any of the episodes that I have put out. So, and I really do appreciate you guys for downloading. I see a lot of people starting to download the app, which I really do appreciate, and it's free. And you know, it's for you guys to make it a little easier to listen to it instead of jumping to platform. You already have it on your phone. Much easier. You don't have to look for it. Bam, it's right there. You can just click a heart on it and a follow, a like on it, and that way you can get the new podcasts that come out. It'll give you a little notification that you're getting it. So, like I said, if you want to be a guest on the show, you can give us a call at our phone number at 361-245-8000. Again, that's 361-245-8000. If you want to be a guest on the show, you have a story, you have an alien abduction, you've seen some UFO crafts, you videoed anything like that, anything mysterious, unknown. It could be ghosts, it can be anything. So anything of the unknown, you can call me and we could set you up on the show, and we can have other listeners listen to your story and get it out there, so that way we can get a little bit more information, as we always do. So you can always see our videos that we have on Facebook. I post a lot of stuff on Facebook, and recently I've thrown a lot of good videos out there and a lot of good pictures. So if you have a chance, just go to Facebook there, Alien Strand. You can just search for us, or go to alienstrand.com. You'll click at the very top of the right. You'll see a little Facebook indication. You can just it'll take you right to the page, and then from there you can watch everything that I put there for you guys to interact with. And it's all the information that I throw out on Facebook is for you guys. It's an FYI. You guys can figure out if it's real, not real. I even throw Bigfoot out there every once in a while. I'll throw cloud formations, everything that you think about as far as UFO related, the unknown, creatures in the night, things that we just don't understand. Even historical events, I'll post them on there for you guys to check it out, because it's very interesting, especially when you just get into ufology. It's something that I put out there for you guys, especially when you just start out. I don't like to throw out so much information that it overloads you with too much. I throw a little at a time, so that way you guys can figure it out. Hey, I like that, or it might be real. I don't know, maybe CGI. And it kind of gets you to dig. And I want you guys to dig for it, as far as these photos, these videos, things like that come out. And if you have one, you can instant message me a video, or if you want to post it on the community section, click on there. You can post your video up there. It'll let you do it from there. So I really do appreciate you guys for doing that, and all my international friends. Thank you for listening to Alien Strand Podcast. I really do appreciate you guys for that. So I wanted to get into something a little different today before I get into the story, because there's a lot of people out there that have seen UFOs or just anything like that, and they don't really record it, or they don't want to be known. You know what I mean? Because they're afraid of the backlash of people like, hey, it's not real or anything like that. It's people just don't believe you, and you just don't want to go through that. So a lot of people, they'll do poster stuff anonymously on these UFO websites or anything that where you can report them. You can also report them on alienstrand.com. There's a little report section there as well, so you can click to it and it'll take you to one of these pages. But I wanted to just give you a little summary of what a lot of these people are saying and putting on there. So on one, he says, I was traveling back home with my mom from my aunt's house on a warm afternoon. While I was sitting in the passenger seat, the object just appeared in the sky a little to our left. We both saw it immediately. The size of it was shocking more than anything. It had the classic saucer shape and was shining brightly because of the sun that was reflecting off of it. We continued to drive down the road for a few seconds, just admiring this craft, when all of a sudden we saw something. I still don't believe it to this day. It just vanishes, disintegrates, disappears, whatever you want to call it. I looked back at my mom. I couldn't tell by her expression that she had seen the same thing. Since this sighting, I have always been interested in UFOs and in the possibility of other life in our universe. This object in the sky was definitely not a helicopter, an airplane, or a flock of geese. My mom and I still talk about the sightings. We hadn't come up with a reasonable explanation as to what we saw that day. This is my UFO story, and it's not a hoax or a fabrication. Everyone always laughs at me when I tell the story, but that's fine. I know what I saw. So this is the story of this person that actually saw a UFO in the sky. And they want to remain anonymous. And that's a great story. You know, it's hard for people to come forward, especially when they've seen stuff like that, because they know people aren't going to believe what they've seen. But I believe what these people have seen because the way it's recorded, they describe it. And just like this story I'm about to tell right now, the Jesse Long story. So I'm going to start it now. His first abduction was in 1957 when he was 5 years old. And he lived in Rogersville, Tennessee. His brother John was with him at the time. There were still children at the time when this happened. They went to a large hill behind the house, and it looked like a house, a round house that was under construction. That's just how they explained it. And what they saw was actually a craft on its legs with a ramp down. And then they said that a tall figure appeared behind them from the bushes. And it had a long rod in its hand that had light emanating from it. He says, after that, he says, then we were paralyzed. And that's all that he recalls until hypnosis, right? So this is what he was telling everybody all these years while he was a child growing up. And I've actually seen a video of this, of an extraterrestrial walking behind a house with bushes, and it has some kind of a wand in its hand or its finger. I can't tell what it is, but it's got a light reflecting from it. And in the video, the guy gets scared and runs. His kids, they run back inside the house. I'll see if I can find that video and I'll put it out for you, but it connects with this. So he says that he would, under hypnosis, that he would cry and scream with fear because he remembers being taken into the craft. He said he was taken into a room on a cold, flat table with his brother separated in another room. He says they were poking and probing at his legs. The Greys were. He says, and then they implanted an object into my left shin, below his knee. He says the object remained in his body for 34 years. He said that area where that implant was in his shin was very painful. That when he would wear socks, he would have to put it below that area because the sock would put pressure on it and it would hurt. So in 1991, he had the object removed from his leg. And when they got the object out, it almost looked like a piece of glass. But when they pulled it out, it looks like a small rod. Almost like a piece of small fiber optic, maybe 2 centimeters long, but it broke in half.
How long was Neil Armstrong actually on the moon? When did Europe start speaking English? Did Marco Polo really go to China? CuriosityStream is the streaming service for all things history, plus science, wildlife, and more. What's the real story behind the Mona Lisa? We've got that. What caused the collapse of Rome? We know. Where did we find mankind's earliest ancestor? Come find out. For the holidays, give the gift of curiosity with 25% off gift cards for your curious cohorts. It's holiday shopping season at curiositystream.com/gift.
And I've seen the pictures of it. I'll put them out on Alien Strand after this. So those pieces were analyzed by the Southwest Research Institute of Texas. Right? So they wanted to find out exactly what that thing that was stuck in his leg and is in his shin. So the conclusion was a greater mystery of that piece. And it revealed, quote, unique surface characteristics that cannot be explained. In other words, the piece, when they put it under a microscope as well, it had small little indentions in it all through that piece. Almost like little circles. And through that, Jesse was convinced at this point that this was a part of his abductions. That's what made him believe 100% when he saw that piece come out of his ankle. And he believes that he was abducted numerous times. He says it was very terrifying and horrific. You know, when he talks about it, it brings tears to his eyes when he's talking about it because of how fearful he was on this abduction. We got to remember, he was 5 when it first started. So later, after hypnosis, he recalls being taken into the craft. This was later after they were abducting him some more. He was taken into the craft down a long hallway. He was placed on a flat table in paralysis. He couldn't move. You know, he was so frightened because he didn't want this. He didn't want the abduction. And then they did a sperm extraction from him, he says. It was very painful. And with that, they forced him to crossbreed with a female extraterrestrial. And I've talked about this before, about the cloning and stuff that they do. A lot of these abductees, females as well, that these Greys or clones will take the eggs from the females. And they'll make this hybrid child. More than one, sometimes. You know, it can be overbearing for somebody, especially when they've been through this traumatic event. So later, in 1990, he was driving from California to Louisiana, outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, on Highway I-40. He says all of a sudden, this was at night, his car got lifted up off the highway with him inside of it. And it was taken into this craft, him, car, and all. Again, aboard the craft, he's laying on a table in paralysis. This time, while he was laying there, paralyzed, he was presented with a baby. And then they told him, "This is your child." So he was kind of terrified at that point when he's looking at the baby because, you know, the way it looks, big eyes, almost looks human though. And then he saw 9 other children standing along the wall looking at him while he was laying on that table. And then he said one by one, they all walked by him and they grabbed his hand and they looked into his eyes. And then they left. You know, he says that the message that they gave him when they were walking off was, "We're okay. And thank you." You know, he suffered a lot of, it was almost post-traumatic stress that he got from it. He had a hard time dealing with people, just socializing, relationships. Anybody that has been abducted in this kind of sense goes through that. Because your mind is trying to wrap itself around what exactly happened. A lot of times they're just thinking, man, this was probably just a dream. You know, it couldn't be real. You know, and then they ask him, if he was to ask the Greys a question, what would it be? And he replies, he says, well, I would ask them, why me? And for what reason? You know, because he didn't like what was done to him. And there's a book that coincides with a lot of these abductions about crossbreeding with these extraterrestrials or aliens. And the book is called The Threat. And it's by Dr. David Jacobs. It's an older book. But if you have a chance, download it, pick it up. Has a lot to do with the crossbreeding and alien abductions and why. And he's actually in the book, he's just trying to answer why it's happening to these people and the after effects of their lives. You know, just like I talked about in the beginning when I'm reading the first story about that person that wants to remain anonymous, how people laugh at him because of, or her, because of what they told or what they say to their friends. And that's just because they witnessed visually a UFO. They didn't get abducted on the first story. On this story, he got abducted. Not once, not twice, but many, many, many times. And they got all this information out of him through regression therapy. And if you have suffered anything like this, regression therapy is the best way to get it out and for you to understand exactly what happened. So if you think that you've gone through this, or you see visions of stuff, or the same dream keeps popping in your head over and over and over of something that you can't see, or something maybe extraterrestrial, something intergalactic, it's best to you know, get yourself some therapy, and it'll help you understand exactly what you are experiencing, and even in your sleep. Because they say when you're asleep, your mind is racing hundreds of miles an hour, dream after dream after dream after dream. You only remember the last 2 minutes of it when you're waking up, because you hit REM sleep. That's when your body actually relaxes and all these things come to you. So just keep in mind on this gentleman, what he went through. He presented his story in the 90s, Mr. Jesse Long, and I thank him for bringing his story out, because by him doing that, it gets us to understand a little bit what people go through during these abductions, even as a small child, the implant. My thing is, most people with an implant, if you know that you have an implant, you're going to get abducted over and over and over. And they use that either to find you or to track you, right? We're almost doing that today. Putting a chip in our arm to buy food, to clock in at work, to identify who you are. So they probably use this same kind of technology. Mind you, we're just coming up with this in 2020. This first one happened to him in 1957. So this technology is way beyond our grasp just until now. Why now? Because I believe that when these extraterrestrials crash, their crafts crash, the government uses the pieces that they find, and they use that technology and they dissect it so they can figure out exactly how advanced these extraterrestrials or aliens are. And they're super advanced. You know, they've been coming here for thousands of years. They still can't figure out who built the pyramids. They say it's the Egyptians, but me personally, I think those things been there for way longer than that. They just put a new coat of paint on it. That's how I see it. So, if you really think about it, these abductions, these UFOs that we see up in the sky, there's a lot of us thinking, man, I want to get taken away. Please take me. This ain't a movie. They're not all going to be friendly. You don't know which extraterrestrials you are going to run into. There's hundreds of species of these extraterrestrials. Not just the Greys, but there's the human ones as well, which I've known through my stories that they're, of course, a lot nicer. Don't ever run into a reptilian, ever. You won't be able to tell the story. That's why you don't hear them. You don't hear somebody saying, I got abducted by a reptilian UFO. You won't come back. The Greys, I believe maybe 80% of the time, 70% of the time, they'll bring you back. You know, they do these experiments on us, human species, because their species, they have no organs, no sexual organs, in other words. So their species is dying out. And they're using these implants to make more of them. It's a possibility. Read that book that I mentioned here. I'm sure it'll give you a lot more FYI on these Greys and their intent and what they're about. Well, I thought this was a good story as far as getting it out to you guys. If you haven't heard it, well, you heard it now here on Alien Strand. And I'm glad I was able to present this to you, because I want you to understand what this gentleman went through. And I'll post a link to the video. It's maybe about 12 minutes long. You'll hear him talking about it. Mr. Whitley Strieber will interview him. You'll hear his explanation and how he doesn't care if you believe or you don't believe. He says, that was not my intent to make you believe. I'm just telling my story of what I experienced and what I went through. And he wanted to bring it out to us, which he did a while back, a few years back. And I'm bringing back this story to you today. So, I hope you got a lot of information out of this podcast. I'm going to get more podcasts out like this. I may have a future guest coming on pretty soon who have had this experience. We will soon see. As soon as I get confirmation, we'll get this person on here and they'll tell their story so you can hear it from their mouth. And that's why I tell a lot of these stories, because they're very well documented. They have merit that way. Very heartfelt because of the traumatic effects that they went through. So, until then, I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. Episode number 40 with Jesse Longstory. You can catch us on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, alienstrand.com, YouTube. You can find us all over the place. I hope you download the Alien Strand Podcast app. You can find it there on your Google Play. If not, go to alienstrand.com. You'll see it at the very bottom on the homepage on the right side. You can click that and it'll take you right to it if you have a hard time finding it through Google Play. But like I said, I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys. I see a lot of you guys sharing Alien Strand. Next week is going to be my giveaway. So I am going to give a nice gift to somebody in the US only. I'm sorry. But I will send you an instant message, ask for your information, and I'm going to send you a nice gift for sharing Alien Strand. You can share the podcast. You can share it on Facebook. Share it on Instagram, Twitter. You can share it anywhere. And I really do appreciate that. But until then, you guys have yourselves a good day. A good evening. And a good night.
And Ian from ET Connections on YouTube and mountain-gate.com.
And you're listening to the Alien Strand podcast with Donald Ledesma.
Catch us on YouTube and hit like and subscribe. We'll see you there.
How long was Neil Armstrong actually on the moon? When did Europe start speaking English? Did Marco Polo really go to China? CuriosityStream is the streaming service for all things history, plus science, wildlife, and more. What's the real story behind the Mona Lisa? We've got that. What caused the collapse of Rome? We know. Where did we find mankind's earliest ancestor? Come find out. For the holidays, give the gift of curiosity with 25% off gift cards for your curious cohorts. It's holiday shopping season at curiositystream.com/gift.